Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Outside the Barn presented by Beyond the Big Ten. I am your host, Kendal Shell, along with me are my co-hosts, Trevor and Blake Hoffaber. Blake, how we feeling today?
Doing well. Another week, and got a big first home game for the Big Ten game tomorrow versus Nebraska. So looking forward to watching that. I can't go, unfortunately, but I think Trev's gonna be there potentially, and rooting on the team hopefully to get a first Big Ten win. Trev?
Yeah, sounds good. Hey, I'm excited to be there. I'll be there again tomorrow for the Nebraska game. Blake, can you Venmo me $25 so I get some popcorn and Mike and Ike's, please?
I still waiting for you guys to pay for my dinner last year. So
No, I'm good though. It was kind of sad waking up this morning seeing snow on the ground. I know I'm in Minnesota, but still every year the winter time comes around and I'm just like, I just don't know how I do this.
It's tough.
How you doing, Kendal?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm happy this time of the year when I think back to those years, 10 years ago on campus where we used to have to wake up to the snow. Now that I'm down in Dallas, I'm a little happier, that I can wake up, don't have to worry about the snow, slipping, your shoes always getting dirty, all that little stuff. But feeling good though, feeling good. It's hoop season. It's a lot going on.
Can we talk about how crazy it is to think about 10 years ago? Just to even say that, and like us to think about like we're in college playing basketball 10 years ago, 11 years ago.
yeah, I'm close to 12, man. That's crazy. We're different people, man. I can't even. I haven't played in a long time, and I don't even want to know how bad I'd be right now. But
Gosh,
It's
yeah,
crazy.
it's
wish you the
crazy.
game
Time's
on.
flying by, and a lot of teams have come and go, and unfortunately, a lot of coaches for the U have come and gone. So there's been a lot of change, but hopefully, the only way up is up right now. So
That was deep.
I guess that's the way. I guess that's a good way to look at it. But yeah, Trev, to your point, it is crazy though, man. Like just thinking back towards that time, like it was a lot you didn't have to think about. Like the meals were there, you know what I mean? Like everything was there. You knew what was coming on an everyday basis. But the amount of practice, and I don't miss, the preseason, the 6 a.m. miles. I don't miss Tubby's boot camp. Blake, did y'all have Tubby's boot camp?
Mm.
oh yeah, we started it, man. We started that Tubby's boot camp at Minnesota. That was
Blake's
we had another
original.
podcast on this, but I was sick to my stomach every night before I hated preseason. It was great because school was starting and parties and stuff, but you knew you had to run that mile every morning at like 5:30 or whatever it was, and I was just so happy for when exhibition and conference games started, non-conference as well, just so we could stop with the conditioning and all that and get to playing with other teams.
Blake is that teammate that gave you that false sense of hope. You're like, man, I'm so tired. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. And he runs like a 4-minute mile. And you're like, yo, what happened?
Oh no, that was Blake.
Like, yeah, that was
Oh
Blake.
no, I was up there, but I wasn't as fast as a couple of the other guys. But I hated that though. You would have the coaches just cheering you on, kind of fakely, because they were tired as hell in the morning too. And we'd have to
Yeah,
run to the track too. That was almost the worst. You were tired
it
by the
was
time you got to the
dark.
track.
Yeah, it was dark. It was still dark out. It was still like the previous day. Nobody was out there except for the army and military people out there running.
I
It's
was gonna say,
cold.
all TC is only people out.
It was bad. It was bad. It was bad. And yeah, man, I remember when we had to run it at 5:30, the guards, right? Blake and I know Biggs, I think y'all had to run it in 6 minutes. And I remember like coming from high school, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I feel like a 7 minute mile was good. You know what I mean? Everything's pretty good. And we had to get there. They said, first of all, they said 5:30. I thought that was crazy. And then I remember like Austin Hollins, I think, or him or Joe Coleman, they both did it in like 4:45 or 4:50. And I was just like, nah, this is different. Like this is different. I thought I was going fast. It was like 6 minutes on my first one. Tubby was like, "Well, I'll see you tomorrow, son," and that was it. That was it.
Oh, we
My
were the
favorite
same
part
day.
every
If we
year.
didn't get it, we'd have to run like up and down Mariucci. So I damn sure made sure I hit that every time. But quick story before we get into it, Trev, you remember when Royce came in the first run, he just took off and he was lapping people. And then all of a sudden he just got on all fours and started puking, didn't finish. But like everyone was like, oh my gosh, this guy just started taking off. He might have lapped Ralph or somebody, but it was crazy. And then he
Well,
just
everybody was laughing Ralph. So
yeah.
But no, that was always the best part because after you go through it 1 or 2 years, you kind of know what's going to happen. So then, like, you always look at the freshmen or whoever come in trying to prove themselves, and you're like, okay, all right, we see that first lap. As time goes on, they're throwing up, like Blake said, like Royce. Yeah, it's like, okay, Royce, good job. And then they don't finish. But everyone's trying to impress the coaches who are on the sidelines in like their nice Canadian Goose jackets and hats, mittens.
Looking all warm, comfortable,
Yeah.
no worries at all. Like, they're
I remember
tired and
guys
like,
would come, it was snowing out, they'd come with their gloves and hat and a sweatshirt on, and Tubby would be like, all right, take them off. Make sure we took our sweatshirts off, hat, mittens, and we just have to run. And it was
Yep.
snowing out.
it's too much,
But
man.
thinking about it, I mean, I guess I don't want to go off topic too much, but like, I know like when we look back at it, and you're like, okay, what does mile run really did? But like I think those moments kind of actually mentally prepare you for those moments. You're like, yo, if I could do this, I could do anything. Kind of like looking back at it now that I think about it.
Yeah, the more
What
you
do you
think
guys
about it, it wasn't about actually running it and being in condition, because we all know running a mile doesn't do anything for being out on the court. It's a totally different workout, but I think it was more mental to like worry about the mile, get out there, run it, do it every day, right? It was more like a mindset thing. I think that's how he was trying to implement, which I get, but I didn't want to get it all. I get it now. I would never want to go back to that, and I don't want anyone to have to go back to that. I'd rather run killers or something.
Ooh, remember the
It
17s?
was a different time. It was a different time with Tubby, man. That was a different time. I'm curious, Blake, just because you did start that whole Tubby boot camp era, and I can jump to you, Trev, too, because shit, we're here now on this Tubby wave. What's the? Give me one of your best Tubby stories. I'll give you an option. Give me one of your best, Blake, and then we can jump to you, Trev.
I think my best, I won't say my favorite because it definitely wasn't my favorite, but I remember my freshman year, we started out really hot. I think we were undefeated or maybe lost one in the ACC challenge. And then we went to Michigan State, and Michigan State was really good. And obviously it's a tough place to play. And it was Tubby's first time playing, at Michigan State, being the Gopher coach. And we held our own. I mean, I want to say I'd have to look it up, but I mean, it was a close game the whole time. And we ended up losing by like, I want to say 4 or 5 or something like that back in 2007, 2008. And we were kind of like, we weren't happy. Like, you don't want to lose, but it wasn't like, oh man, we just got beat by a non-conference team or a crummy team. Like, it was, we played pretty well and just gave it away at the end. And Tubby was screaming, cussing, yelling us out on the whole plane ride home, bus ride home. And then he made sure we had early practice like we did every morning. And then we got to practice the next day. And there was, I think everyone's heard this, but we walked through the pavilion where the girls used to play to, a shortcut when we had to walk from the dorms. And there was helmets and shoulder pads with our jersey numbers on the shoulder pads. And we had to practice the whole day in shoulder pads and helmets. And I remember Al Nolan, freshman with me, I was on the second squad with him. And I felt so bad for him because he had a dribble and we were tired as hell. And he had a dribble with his helmet on and his head was sit down because he couldn't even hold his helmet up. So he wasn't seeing anybody out there. And people were setting back screens on each other because you could turn your head around and just get smoked with helmets in the back. And no one could shoot. That was the funniest thing. Like, no one scored the whole practice because you can't shoot with shoulder pads on. Like, so someone would like, shot clock was winding down, so someone would try to shoot, couldn't lift their arms up, and just would airball it every time. But that's probably I don't want to say my favorite, but my moment that I remember very vividly with Tubby. And it happened to me my first year.
I always remember hearing about that story. That's hilarious. I could imagine doing that.
Yeah, it was brutal. But I think Izzo, he might have taken it from Izzo because I think there's stories that Michigan State guys tell about that same story. So, he was trying to make us tough and all that kind of stuff. And, you had to do those. He would throw it off stand at the free throw line and 2 guys would be on both sides and you would have to box out the 2 guys. And if you didn't get the rebound on D, you would have to go again. And doing that with shoulder pads and helmets, just ramming each other pad to pad, it was just. That was the dumbest thing ever.
I did love that drill. It gave me a chance to just push everybody in the back and just get the offensive rebound. So for me, I love that drill.
Yeah, but the worst part was you you would keep getting the rebound, pretending you were being on the offense, but then coach would get more mad and more mad. So at some point, you were just like, damn, I should just let the guys get this rebound because it would start affecting the whole team.
I know. Trying to earn some playing
Yeah.
time.
Thanks. Trev, what you got?
Ooh, I don't know. I got so many Tubby stories. Like Tubby's great. The one that kind of always sticks out to me. I think we've had a winning streak. I can't remember like who we played at that point. We won a couple wins and we had like a bad loss here and there. He brought us into like a practice one day, put us all in a circle, and like he humbled the hell out of all of us. He told us all where he got us from and how he can, basically like you ain't nothing. Like he told Otto he got him from the middle of nowhere, Latvia. He told Elliott, he got him from some
He let all
cornfields
the JUCO players know
Chandler,
where they
Nebraska.
came from.
Told me about myself. I was like, whoa, like I didn't even know that. Like, yeah, it was eye opener. I was like, oh, because coach, he's nonchalantly, twirling his whistle and going in on all of us. It was like, whoa, we looked at each other. I was like, wow. And then he come back and play some jazz music to finish off practice, and we we beat each other up and go from there. How about you, Kendal? Do you remember that, Kendal?
That's hilarious. It's a lot of moments like which one?
Do you remember that one when we were all in the huddle at half court?
Do I?
I don't know if you were there. I
Yes.
think Blake was
How
still
could I
there.
forget?
You were there, Blake.
I wasn't
No, he
there.
wasn't.
Oh.
Blake was not there. Blake was not there. That
I
was,
never played
I
with
think that
Kendall.
was my sophomore year, second year during that time. So Blake wasn't there. But for me, I would say probably there's a lot of them like y'all talked about. But I don't know if you remember Trev at Ohio State. We probably I wouldn't say it was the best game we had. May have lost by 20, may have been 25, may have been 30. I don't know what it was, but let's just say it wasn't our best outing. And let's just say after that game, when we left that locker room, I mean, I visualized chairs flying. I visualized water bottles flying. I mean, Trev, do you remember that one? Like, Tubby was hot.
We actually came back and almost went to overtime. We were down like 20. We came back on some random stuff. But yeah, I remember that. I'm like, oh, we definitely did some damage. You probably had to send an invoice over to Ohio State afterwards.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say.
Speaking of playing bad like that, the last comment I'll make is, especially with Tubby, I had Tubby for all 4 years, but how bad was the feeling when you guys weren't filmed the next day watching the game and you knew your shitty play was coming up? And I was just so nervous. And all of a sudden you get to it and you're like, oh, here it goes. He pauses it, just starts reaming you out. I hated that. And I always knew where my dumbass plays were. And I'm like, oh boy, here it comes. And every once in a while, like you get lucky as hell. Like he wasn't very good at the remote control.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he'd like fast forward it. And like one time it skipped past my shitty play and I was so excited. I'm like, man, he didn't even realize what just happened.
But he'll rewind it though. He'll rewind it.
I laughed at everything.
What'd
So
you say?
anytime I knew something was going to happen, I was like, oh, here it comes.
Oh. You were like I was just like sweating. You were just like, oh, here it comes. Oh no.
No. Trev,
and he'd look
Trev
back
was the
at
worst.
you like, are you
Trev
serious?
was the worst.
Are you serious?
Trev was the worst. Don't let Trev just skate over that. Trev was absolutely the worst person as a teammate in film in my entire 4 years, and it wasn't even close. Every single time something was going to happen on film, Trevor found a way to get that person's attention and would be laughing. You don't know what it was, but he knew every time somebody was about to mess up. He'd be like, Joe, it'd be the worst. It'd be the worst. Then Tubby will rewind it back, Blake, like you said to your point. It would be the worst during that time.
Oh.
He always thought, we're just going to watch the first half 3 hours later. We're still like through the first TV timeout.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad, man. But yeah, man. Speaking of O State, though, speaking of that terrible loss that we had with Tubby, we made that comeback. Trev, I feel like this team kind of did something similar. I think they were down over 20 in this first half. And I feel
Yeah.
like this current team, this Gophers team, they showed a little fight against the Ohio State team. I hate saying that. I feel like we keep
Yeah.
saying that. That they show fight and they show promise. But I feel like that was a pretty good Ohio State team. I think it does show, show something to come back, especially at their place. So I don't know. I know both you guys kind of jumped in, looked at it a little bit. I'll start with you, Blake. Talk through a little bit of your thoughts from the O State game. I know they did come back from down a lot. I thought about you during the game because I'm pretty sure in our last pod you talked about Dawson having to be more assertive, and I think we saw that
Yep.
when it came to the box score. So I'll let you jump in a little bit on your thoughts from the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think two things. I guess I'll start out with is if we just don't get down 22, that's going to be a legit game. I mean, we just dug ourselves a hole, and unfortunately, this team tends to do that. We just got to start out a little stronger, and I think if we would have done that and not turned the ball over as much, it would have been fine. I just think also to your point, and I mentioned it last time, not to get credit, but Dawson needs to do. He's doing well this year, right? He's having a good year. He's been Player of the Week, but I hate to say it, but do a little more, and he did it. Not that he's listening to this podcast, or maybe he is, but he did more. I mean, he had a great game. He single-handedly kept the team, I think, in the game. And I don't know how many times in the Big Ten he's going to be able to do that, but if he can do that, even half that good, I mean, he's going to have a hell of a season. So, um, I was happy to see that. I wasn't happy to see how they started, but I was happy to see how they came back from being down 22. Because a lot of times on the road, when you get down 22 like that, it can get worse and worse and worse in a hurry. And they didn't put their heads down. They battled back. Unfortunately, Jameson Battle had a good game. He was good for the Gophers, but you never want to see that looking back like, oh man, he could have been with us doing that. But
That was
he
so
did have a
weird
good
watching.
game. I saw him looking back at the bench a few times at the Gopher bench when he hit a couple shots. But yeah, I don't want to say it's a moral victory because I still think it wasn't that great a game. But the positives were they didn't put their head down. They came back, and Garcia had a hell of a game with 36 points and kind of manhandled and showed what type of player, All American he was in high school and player he is in college here. Trev.
Yeah, like it was weird watching Jameson score on us. Like it just didn't seem right. Yeah, it's like it took some time to get used to it. But for me, like not to be exaggerate the situation, but I think this game tomorrow versus Nebraska is the biggest game of the season. I think just the way that they have to come out, play at home, beat a solid Nebraska team. Like if they lose that game, like I don't, I'm optimistic. I hope that we win. I think we have a good chance. I think we will win. But also, like you don't want to go down 0-2 to start the Big Ten, especially how last season ended. I know we keep talking about earlier, like we got to forget what last year like happened, but let's be realistic. If you start losing and these things start happening, like your thoughts can be like, oh shit, or excuse me, I remember how last year went. So I think this is the biggest game of the year. Obviously, it's not the end of the season, but I think just getting a big win at home versus a conference opponent to start the season is going to be huge for this team. And I want to see how they rebound after last Sunday's game. Kendall?
I agree. I agree with you. I think when you first said that statement, I'm like, a little dramatic, Trev, which is kind of on brand, but it makes sense. I hear you. I hear you. I think it is probably the most important game of the season from a mental perspective, not just from the players, but just from even the fan base too. I think just everyone in general. I think being the first Big Ten home game, like coming there, and just getting that fan base together. I think we talked about last week how important it is just to keep the fans involved and keep kind of that energy there. I think starting the season with a win, that'll get some people coming back. That'll help a lot. But if not, like you talked about, Trev, it definitely gets tight a little bit. It definitely gets a little tough. So I agree with both of you though on the game. I think it's still a good team. I think they have a good foundation. I think they can be good, right? They're not good yet, but they have the talent and they have the personnel. I say last season, quite honestly, fellas, I don't think we even had the personnel. I don't even think they were just capable yet. A lot of it was like if we play to our fullest potential, we can win some games. But for this team, it's more so if we don't turn the ball over, if we don't have live ball turnovers, if we just get a few more stops, if we actually take a few better shots and we start off the game better, like this is a team that compete in the Big Ten. So I like that. And then I like how big Dawson played. I feel like that was huge by him just coming with 36. I think that's a big statement game. Shows how big, he was. I think in the first half, though, I remember they said Dawson didn't take his first shot, though, Blake, until like 11 minutes in, actually. Right. So imagine if he just came out the
Mhm.
gate just aggressive. I
And
think
that
that would
might
have
have
been
been the
big.
problem, right? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
that was probably the
that could have
problem,
changed.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's good to like let the game come to you to a certain extent, but when you're the player, the best player on a team, like I don't care, let the game come to you, but
Minutes.
11 minutes, like you need to get a shot up. I don't, and I don't know if that's drawing a play up for the guy. Part of that's on him too. Like go get a rebound, right? I always knew if I wasn't getting the chance to get the ball or they're to face guard me or whatever, like I got to find a way to get the ball, right? And get active, especially so, I don't want to say that's on him, but part of that's on him and part of that's on, hey, let's get him easy bucket and run a play for him to get him going, right? And that's maybe why we ended up losing the game because we got down by so much and he didn't shoot a bucket for, like you said, 11 minutes.
yeah.
Dawson, something about playing at Ohio State. Dawson loves. We had 28 last year, 36 this year. So if only we could play Ohio State every time with Dawson, we'll be good.
Pretty much, man. I don't know if y'all noticed though, but JMO was talking a little too. We can't act like we didn't see Jameson talking a little at the beginning of that. I'm very interested to kind of see how that was. Like, I don't know, man. I want to hear y'all's thoughts, but for me, even I popped in the Big Ten Media Day, and so I saw Jameson there, and for me as just an alumni, it felt weird because it's like he's one of us, but he's also not right now. As he's walking in with the O State guys, and so then I talked to Dawson, and Pharrell was down there. I was like, is this weird? And Dawson was like, it's weird as hell, bro. Like this is weird as hell. Like just seeing him walk around. So I don't know. I can't imagine, man. Can you? I'll start with you, Blake. Can you imagine like Trev, even like Trev just transferring to Ohio State during your time there? Like how would
No,
you
and
have approached
and I think and it's just different times. I mean, back then people didn't transfer as much, and if they
it? Yeah,
did, especially in the Big Ten, you couldn't even transfer to another Big Ten school. Like I thought that was a rule, or you couldn't get a scholarship or something, right? So I didn't even know of anybody that transferred. I thought the rule was if you like transferred to another Big Ten school, like you had to be a walk on or something. I thought there was some rule like that. So I never even Trev, I don't know your thoughts on it or Kendall even if you even heard of someone doing that within the same conference in the Big Ten. But I think it would be weird. I mean, not saying I wouldn't be buddies with them, like because obviously, local kid, Trev grew up here, but like shit, when you get on the hardwood or even warming up, like I would act like we're enemies, right? That would just be my personality. I couldn't laugh with him, and if he was looking at me after he hit a shot, like that would piss me off, right? So, I know kids are a little different these days, and like to think I'm still a kid, but I think just the days with AU and social media, I just think everyone seems to be buddy buddies, even the NBA, which drives me crazy a little bit. But that's just kind of the days we live in. But I would think it would be weird, just like Dawson said.
Yeah, definitely weird. I didn't like the trash talking. I get it, but also that one felt weird to me. You know what I mean? Like it's like you're on this team. We lost together. Now you jump ship to no knock on him. He did the right thing. He got his money. He did. He's in the bigger spotlight. But the whole talking mess to the bench and all that stuff. I didn't like that. But I guess maybe I'm quote unquote old school. I would have set a harsh screen on him or something. We're friends, but when we get in this court, like you said, Blake, we're enemies. I want to dunk on you. I'm gonna yell at you. I'm gonna do whatever.
Well, it's kind of like you guys ever watch that or see that article about Kobe and the Dream Team when they played Powell?
Yeah, when he set that back screen on him to start, or he ran through the
Yeah, he
screen.
told his teammates they had just won the title, I think, in the NBA. And they went and played Spain, obviously. And Kobe said the first play of the game, Powell's gonna try to set a screen on him, and he's gonna run straight through his chest. And sure enough, he did, and just crushed Powell to the ground. But basically, That was his mentality, right? They were boys, they were best friends, or really close, but when they got on the hardwood against each other, like he was going to prove a point that they're not buddies anymore.
Yeah, that's that's old school. That's Kobe. I don't think this. I don't think this new gen like y'all talking about are built that way. But
We don't
to
got
your
no
point,
Kobe's out there. Come on.
nah, not no more. Cam
But you
Christie.
good
Cam
point,
Christie
like,
might have it. Cam Christie might have it in him.
yeah.
I can see a little Cam,
I don't
but
know. I don't like the conference transfers though. Like to your point, we never had that. I think you always had to like lose a year or you couldn't be on scholarship that
I
year.
know.
But
I think it was, I don't think you could get a scholarship.
yeah, it was
I'm
something
pretty
like that.
sure.
I don't
In the
like that. I
Big
think
Ten, other conferences you could, but I think in the Big Ten, if you transferred to a different team, like it wasn't you had to sit out 1 year because that was everybody. Like I don't think you could get a scholarship. I think you had to be a walk on then.
I agree.
So much to
hopefully we
look
get
that
back
up.
to
But
that
I'm
because
pretty sure that was it. Not that I ever looked, but I just I thought I heard that.
there's something you want to say, Blake. Where are we going to transfer to? Iowa.
Everyone knows I was a hometown kid, man.
So
I
is
wasn't moving.
Jameson.
Uh,
That don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing. So is Jameson. But anyways, it's all good. I think that's terrible. I think something does need to change going forward. I'm good with the whole transfer thing where you don't have to sit out now. But in conference, I think you either have to sit out or it just shouldn't be a thing. I mean, just from a strategic standpoint, that just doesn't. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. But anyways, we move on from that. I hope we figure out what we can do going forward to win. I think, like you said, Trev, tomorrow is probably the biggest game of the season. Nebraska's a very good basketball team, so I want you two to kind of, as we wrap up here, put your coaching hat on and kind of I would say the winning objectives for tomorrow. I'll start just because I feel like I dropped one in earlier, but the team turns the ball over too much still, careless turnovers. So I think, from if I gave two winning objectives for the team tomorrow, just it would probably be keep the turnovers under 10, um, and make sure Dawson has, you know, probably 5 to 10 shot attempts just in the first half. I think those are two big pieces for the team. I think it also kind of summarizes all that we've talked about here. But I think those are kind of two big pieces. I think get Dawson going early. It's a huge one. And then they just got to turn the ball over less. You know what I mean? Because it can be deflating. And at home, it's just super important to keep the energy and keep the fans around them. So those are going to be two big ones for me. Uh, Coach Hoffaber, I'll let you jump in with what you got.
I'm with you. I think they got to start strong. You're at home. You got to get the crowd into it right away. I think you got to get Dawson going right away. You got to get Payne going right away. I would play inside out. Start out inside, get some easy buckets, and then hopefully don't rely on the 3-point shot because I think some games they're starting to rely on the 3-point shot, and if it's not going down, it's just a cluster. So I think starting off strong, getting Dawson and Payne going, and then letting the game come to you. But you can't dig yourself a hole. I think that's the biggest thing we've learned this year with this team. And you got to keep the crowd into it. There's a reason why, Williams Arena can be tough when it gets loud in there. And there's a reason why most people play better at home and the record's better at home is because you gotta have home court advantage. And if we get out slow, the crowd's not behind the team, the crowd's, booing or hemming and high, that affects the players as much as fans don't
Yes.
think that. So I think that's a huge one. And going back to your point before I go to Trevor, but I disagree with you a little bit, Kendall, and I got to think through it a little more. But I think they'll never do it, but I think it would solve the college a little bit if they said you don't lose a year, but you had to sit out a year if you transfer. Because I think there's just way too many people that things go wrong for a second and boom, they're out of here and they transfer. And it just messes up chemistry of teams. College coaches don't like it. I mean, I get that, hey, a coach can leave, if he's not happy and go to different schools. Why can't a player? But I don't know. I think there's issues with both sides of it, but not to go on a tangent, but I think if they affected some kids where they had to sit out a year, they would maybe suck it up for another half a season or one more season just to make sure it wasn't a reality to get the heck out of there, and it would solve some things. But Trev, go on with the Nebraska game.
Yeah, we could talk about the transfer portal for a long time. We should definitely have that as a topic moving forward because I see both sides of it. Obviously, for me, I was a transfer myself. A lot of it became because my coach ended up leaving to go to Indiana University. So, like, I think always it's always tough when you have like the whole coaching leaving. Like, I always think the kids should have a free transfer. I know
So
colleges
I
do the
agree with
same.
that. If coaches leaves, you can leave.
But also, I think like you said, your stipulations. I think maybe after your first 2 years, you should have to sit out. But you don't want kids just always leaving every year because, like you said, the grass is not always greener. Like one coach might tell you this, but you realize your first, your 2 days on campus, you're like, oh damn, this was a lie, or what the case may be. So I do wish there was some stipulations or something that we can do to make families think twice before they're just jumping in the transfer portal because they're, oh, my coach doesn't play me. Like there might be a reason behind that. But going back to the initial point, our conversation is just to your point, both of you. I just want to see us get off to a good start. I think we struggled at Ohio State. We struggled even the game I went to at New Orleans. Like we kind of, it was a slow start, and we finally start, finding a rhythm. Like I just want to see them just come off the bat, get the crowd involved, them all feeding off each other, kind of like what they did versus Missouri. I want to see one of those starts and hopefully finishes also. Just so the kid, just so everyone kind of feels in a good rhythm. The crowd's involved. It's a Big Ten game. It's a big environment, and I just want to kind of set. After this, I think we have a few like smaller games, but just kind of prepare us as we get through the gauntlet of the Big Ten. So hopefully we get off to a good start and just kind of just ride it and just kind of take care of shooting the ball, taking care of the ball. Dawson, Farrell, them killing the inside. Ola Joseph, just kind of us just being us and not wait until the second half when we're down 12, 15 points to find like, okay, now it's time for us to, ramp up things.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think we have to punch him in the mouth early, like you said, Trev. Like we can't wait to get punched in the mouth and then get in the huddle and say, "Come on, guys, let's bring it together." Like they have to come out hot. You both have been around those games at Williams where we come out the gate hot. You know what I mean? Like we're just clicking. You don't know what happens, and you know how live the crowd is. I think that's 100% where they need to be in this next game. A lot of it's going to come from Trev on the sidelines in the fans section, just kind of bringing the energy too. But I 100% agree. It needs to be a lot of clicking on all cylinders on the court, but also just bringing the energy. Like let's actually protect home court. We talk to guys and they say it is tough to play at the barn when it is popping there. So we just got to bring the energy. We got to play better, and I'm excited. I think they can win this game. I'm very hopeful. I know it's a tough Nebraska team, but I think they can win it. So we'll see what
Mhm.
happens here. But fellas, as always, appreciate you, appreciate your time. I think we got two topics for these next episodes. I love the transfer portal topic, Blake and Trev. I think we'll have to touch a little bit more on that one, as that is a very touchy topic right now. But thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Outside the Barn. For Trevor and Blake Hoffarber, we'll see you guys next time. Go Gophers, Sky Umai.
Got you, Ma.